there will be no real non-controlled currency in the world.
We're coming for you, banks.
Bitcoin is punk rock. Deal with it.
You split, we bankrupt you.
Do you use Lightning wallets to pay for things or not?
No.
Bitcoin Cash would be seen as more of a threat to the United States hegemony than Bitcoin.
Miles Town, what's your favorite kind of money?
Bitcoin Cash.
Hello and welcome back to the Bitcoin Cash podcast following Bitcoin Cash on its rise to global reserve currency. This is episode number 62, Google Crypto and 3D printing, featuring Fouad. Today is Sunday, the 16th of October, 2022. I'm your host, Jeremy. Jet is in the producer chair, making it happen with the new Twitch layout, you know, bringing some of those technical skills to the table there. And our guest today is a guy from Dubai, self-described Bitcoin Cash meetup organizer in Dubai and a frequent contributor to all of the Telegram channels, actually, lots of them on the Bitcoin Cash community. We've sort of got this weird system going on where everybody's split into all these sort of separate sub Telegrams. So there's kind of a bit of community discussion going on, but it's kind of distributed out across a bunch of different channels. So I guess people are active in a variety of them as well. But welcome to the show, man. How are you doing today?
Thank you. Appreciate it. Glad to be on the show. Pretty happy to be here finally. I've been working on lots of projects within like the Telegram groups and stuff like that. It's kind of nice because, you got a decentralized, community and everyone talks about different things. So it just makes sense to be in many of them. And, there's the price group, there's the overall group, the meetup groups and stuff like that. So it's been going pretty well. Yeah,
exactly. It's interesting to me that people naturally prefer those kind of threaded discussions. Like I think back in the day, it was all about forum boards and people love that because then you could go in one particular thread and there might be 30, active threads or something. And if you cared about those threads, you could subscribe or, click on those ones, and the ones you didn't. And so then Reddit is just obviously very, very similar to that. And in Telegram, even though it's this kind of group chat based system, people still naturally fall into that pattern of having single topic based discussions that then people can get involved into. So it's really interesting to see like which channels are bigger and which are smaller and which ones are more active, and who is cross-pollinating, or there's kind of sometimes little jokes or something running between channels that somebody is joking around in one channel and then they're talking to the same person in the other channel, that kind of thing. So it can be hard to get into, though. I think that's one of the things as well too. Like if you don't, you kind of, because it's not like a forum board where there is a list of these are all the threads. If you just come into it, firstly in Bitcoin Cash, how would you even know to be on Telegram? You might join some way. You kind of need to find your way into Telegram, and then even once you're there, it's not like you know about this channel or that channel until somebody references it, or I guess if you ask someone, or if there's like referral links, or you learn about different projects. I don't know. How did you find your way into all the different channels, and do you have a favorite?
I don't remember exactly how I came into it. I think at one point I reached one of those links that had all the Telegram Bitcoin Cash groups. I think I was just like searching up on Google or something, and I found it. And I joined firstly, obviously the regular one with like 3,000 members, the Bitcoin Cash group. Then there's the price group. And then I think on one of the episodes, you guys spoke about like some open source project that Jet was working on, and I joined that one, and that's how I really got into it. It was from the episodes.
Yeah. Okay. All right. Good. Well, maybe we can refer a few people here. Like, so the main one I think is what's it called? Let me just find it up now. For anybody who isn't on Telegram or whatever, so the main group currently has 3,466 members, and that's called t.me/BCH channel. And I guess that's the main group. So if you go in there, you can ask, you can just see what people are chatting about. And I guess if you want to get referred into other groups, you can just ask and somebody will message you and say, hey, check out this group or that group. It's kind of a strange way to organize things in one sense, because I feel like the discoverability is kind of low. You need to, but I guess a lot of other cryptos do this as well too, right? Like I think of eCash, or I'm sure every other coin has its Telegram groups as well too. So I guess that might help people moving from one community into another community. They're already used to that idea of Telegram chats. Maybe I don't know. Kind of a bit hard to know. But how do you get into Bitcoin? Tell us your story with the Bitcoin Cash and how things all got started with the crypto.
So I'm not that early. I first heard of Bitcoin in 2017, obviously in the bull run. I think the first time I heard about it, it was like 6,000, and then just kept climbing up. I mean, even back then, now in hindsight, I've been seeing those videos. The popular ones. I think, like what is blockchain like, or there's like one of those videos that's like blockchain explained in 5 different ways to 5 different people, like from the youngest all the way to like the professional. And even then, they were like pushing this narrative of Bitcoin or blockchains cannot scale. Like even then, it was like, okay, Bitcoin uses the blockchain, but blockchain is so much more than just Bitcoin. And now, like, we come back to this whole full circle. So again, I didn't even buy back then. Like, I think I bought like a few dollars in Bitcoin in like one of those stock trading apps where you don't even have the keys or anything. So then I was just in university and stuff, and I just didn't really follow it for a while. And I got back to it in beginning of 2022. And the way I got into it was I bought a ledger, obviously. And I was like, okay, cold storage. I'm definitely going to go for that. And back then, Ledger only had like a few cryptocurrencies, not that many. And just like any person that wants to make money, I was like, okay, I'm going to check all the coins with the lowest market caps. Right. So, and then I would like go on CoinMarketCap. I do some research about it, stuff like that. And there's this particular coin that I came across, which was called Vertcoin, with the ticker VTC. It's also a green colored coin. And that coin, I tried it out, because you can do mining on it, like GPU mining. Because obviously I'm not going to buy an ASIC and, burn all that electricity. I was like, okay, I'll try with my PC. I mined a bit of Vertcoin, and it was so fast, like the transaction speed. It's just like Bitcoin Cash, incredibly fast. And then I tried some BTC transactions, and I'm like, wait, this is really slow, and I gotta wait half an hour sometimes an hour, and the fees are so high. So I was like, okay, what's going on here? And I did some research, Bitcoin, and again, like, I don't want to be following the crowd. If you just follow the crowd, you might know that something is wrong. Right, you don't want to be like a sheep following. So I was like, okay, then I'll look at the other side of the table, and that's how I got into Bitcoin Cash.
That's awesome. It's actually a thing that I think a lot of people have that experience. Certainly, I have, of knowing like people get the idea that a lot of the value is just in being early, and so then they think, I'm not gonna, like, people can be one of two ways. Either they think, I'll just play it safe, I'll get the big coins because obviously the market has decided, or there must be a reason that those are the biggest, safest, stablest coins. I'm not going to just get scammed and lose all my money. So maybe they just think, okay, I'll just get into the main ones, and then as time goes on and I get more experience, I'll look into the other ones, right? And then you have the more sort of opportunistic types, like you and me, perhaps, who look at the list and we think, okay, everyone's already in these main ones. Like, what are these other ones? What is the smaller ones? It doesn't take as much new money or as much hype or whatever to pump this through the roof. So I had some Vertcoin at some point. I don't know that I even sent it anywhere, but I owned it on an exchange. And then a lot of those smaller coins, like back in the day, it was Feathercoin. That was one of the classic shit coins, which is now completely dead, I'm sure. But there's that risk to reward. If you're somebody who likes to live on the edge a bit more, you put in the work to look further down the list. So that's actually really interesting. And so, are you convinced of a lot of those other coins still, or did you kind of come all the way around where you found the small coins that were more functional but had no community or something, and then got into Bitcoin BTC and then discovered, well, it doesn't really work, and then you got through to Bitcoin Cash, and now you're like, well, that's the perfect combo of both? Or do you still have those other coins? Do you have Ethereum or anything else like that?
No, I'm not really focused on the other coins. Again, I did my research on them. Again, like in a bull market, everyone makes money, or like the same thing, like when there's like some sort of scam or something like that, everyone gets to make money until a certain point. And I still feel like crypto kind of is that way in a way, because like there's no utility. Like you could be holding Litecoin. Like who's spending Litecoin? Like not that many people, in my opinion. So again, and you get to see those blockchain metrics and stuff like that. When I was still like buying those altcoins and stuff like that, most people, you make a lot of money from them, and then you turn them into BTC. So there was that. And also I was thinking of looking into some stable coins, and then it just didn't make too much sense. Like, okay, you're missing out on obviously you get to keep a stable value, but it hasn't been stable. Like we've seen so many stable coins. Like if something is called a stable coin, something's wrong. Like because again, like there's something going on behind the scenes that we don't know about.
Yeah, that's exactly it. It is a bit of a shell game, and that's kind of part of both the beauty and the problem of crypto, is that it's an industry and a hobby and a niche, and it comes with so much new lingo and things, because everything is like that, right? If you get really into poker, or you get really into tennis, or whatever it is, you can find as you delve deeper into it that, okay, there's these terms that you didn't understand, and there's things that the industry people are thinking about and talking about and stuff that you probably didn't know at the start. But with something else that you get involved in, there's not necessarily so much money on the line immediately, so people come into it and they have to learn to reorient themselves around all the lingo as well as all the broader concepts, and everybody just learns it in this piecemeal fashion because they find their own way through it, right? So that's, I think it's incredible how people come to different conclusions about different things. And unfortunately, some people who either don't look into it enough, or they get a bit confused or lost along the way, well, maybe they put a ton of money into Luna, and then it blows up a month later, and they're like, I don't know what's going on. I just know that I overinvested and now I'm screwed. So some people have to learn kind of by harsh experience, and some people can avoid it by finding the right information sources earlier. So yeah, it just depends. Everybody has their own journey, I guess. With the scaling stuff then, so you said like you think that there's this narrative like it can't scale and so on and so forth, and maybe that's a reason not to prefer BTC or anything that is capped its scaling. But were you already suspect of like Ethereum's chances of scaling, or why are you convinced about Bitcoin Cash scaling then versus other options?
Again, like the whole idea was peer-to-peer cash, and that's why I support that coin, because like Ethereum was like all about smart contracts, and again, I didn't really like understand it so much, and I didn't really want to get into it. I was just focused more on currency, because again, like my example is I'm Lebanese, and there's the Lebanese pound, which basically is terrible right now. Like it lost so much of its value. Like it used to be $1 was 1,500, and now it's 40,000. So it's pretty.
That's over what kind of time
insane
period? Just for the listeners, like it's a busy hyperinflating, but how long did it take for that change in exchange rate?
It started in the summer of 2019. So it's been like 3 years now. And again, it's like the problems were like from before even COVID, and then COVID came, and it's just on top of each other, like so many different issues. But again, like Bitcoin is for everyone. That's the thing we can all agree on, and I don't think like having a centralized group of developers, co-opting it or taking it away from everyone. So having these cheap fees is just really important, in my opinion.
Yeah, absolutely. And with that situation, then I guess you would have, friends and family that are being directly impacted and so on and so forth. Like, do you know to what extent cryptocurrency is becoming a lifeboat to them, or are they interested, or is it still too speculative and weird, or how is that playing out from your point of view?
I haven't been much to Lebanon, but again, like there, it's really early still. I feel like this whole narrative of digital gold or this kind of store of value really, shook things up, like sent us back a few years. But I think it's starting to come more into the limelight, But in Dubai over here, there's so many companies coming here about blockchain and starting startups, and I think it's like people know, like in the back of their mind, that Bitcoin right now is for the utility is that you can speculate, and I don't know, it's not really like it's all the rich people basically in their Lambos and influencers on YouTube. All of them live here, and you can like search them up. But I think having this for not just the top 10% or top 1% of the richest people, having it for at least half the population is important.
Yeah, absolutely, and I totally agree. I think things are it's a slow and painful process. It's very frustrating in some sense that you have to explain to people, step by step. But on one hand, I kind of you have to appreciate it, because once upon a time it was trying to tell people about Bitcoin and they were like, this is weird and I've never heard of this and I already hate it. Like that was it. They're unfamiliar with it, so that's the end of the discussion right there. So now things have got to a stage where it's more like you talk to them and they're like, oh, that's that weird stock commodity / speculation type casino, and okay, maybe in some respects it would be better if they'd never heard of it, because you could get them on the right path straight away. But on the other hand, they have at least heard of it, and when you're talking to them, at least they know what's they're not immediately weirded out by it. So then you can sort of have to explain more the history and the whole concept of it being a currency, and try and demonstrate that, right? So yeah, it's just a trade-off, I guess. But I agree with you that I think people, because you can only get so many people involved in speculation. That's basically what happens. There's a lot of people that want to speculate and gamble and throw away their money. But at a certain point, people are like, I need to actually use this. If I can't pay for it, what is the point? And I think that's, we're sort of capping out about on the amount of speculative fervor. So things will trend back towards coins that are building real adoption. So speaking of that speculation, let's have a look at the prices this week. Crypto bear market still in force. I was saying we're close to the bottom last week, so of course it went down a bit further. USD $109.84. One BTC buys 175.4 BCH, so we're down a little bit on that ratio. And one Ethereum buys 11.7 BCH, so down a little bit on that ratio too, but only a very slight bit. Ethereum has been struggling ever since the merge. It has been dropping against BTC, so the grand hype about that just completely failed to materialize. So I guess we've already talked about it a little bit in terms of speculating and which coins and stuff you own, but do you have any other specific insights on how you handle the financial aspect of cryptocurrency, like how you deal with volatility or how you explain it to people that ask?
So for the price, I'm used to looking at the price every day. But again, like sometimes I can go like a week without looking at the price, because again, like I've done my research and I'm kind of convinced adoption is the way to go. Like again, like with the whole Bitcoin thing, okay, they can do their store of value thing for a while, but again, you're going to need adoption. And then there's been like some discussions about like, look at the folks at BCH, like what they're doing, and again, like with the price, it's been pretty bad recently. I'm not gonna lie, $110 now. But again, like there is this kind of, I don't want to say theory, but like we're early into we're like Bitcoin back in 2013, but like in an alternate universe where we're not the only one. There's tons of altcoins now. I think 21,000 of them. And again, like price is again, this bear market's important because people get to work and get to show off what they're doing, and maybe in the next time we'll have so much more. Like these 5 years have been really important as a development to make Bitcoin Cash more usable, more user friendly, all that kind of stuff. And I think if we keep going this way for the next 5 years, price will be higher. Like that's just at least the way I see it.
Yeah, I think you made a really good comment I saw the other day where you were saying about if you consider from 2009 to 2017 up to the fork, okay, that was like 8 or 9 years. So then you could say, okay, if you make that one sort of era, then if you take the second era of Bitcoin Cash, you kind of reset the clock. Well, then it would be another 8 or 9 years, let's say to 2025 maybe, and then it would be from that point you could kind of judge it, because even though there was a certain respect that things didn't start exactly from zero in 2017, because obviously there was already wallets and there was already community and already people that understood about Bitcoin and so on and so forth. But on the other hand, some parts of it did have to start from zero because you had all people dumping the coins from the other side of the fork, and you had to recoalesce, create new community forums that were busy being disrupted, and so on and so forth. So there was actually a lot that had to get done. Even those first 3 or 4 years of maybe 3 years of BCH development, things like adding the new address format and getting everyone standardized on that, changing the difficulty algorithm, like loads of things had to be built just to handle being in this situation, like you say, of being Bitcoin BTC or Bitcoin in 2013 or 2014. It didn't have any competitors like that, didn't have any direct forks that it was competing with, and it didn't have even that much of a field of other coins to compete against, certainly not well-funded ones with millions of dollars of VC money. So it is a different, an alternate universe kind of world. And yeah, we have to find a way to stand out from the crowd overall, I think. So speaking of that, we've got Google accepting crypto is the first news topic of the day. CNBC publishes article, Google selects Coinbase to take cloud payments with cryptocurrencies and will use its custody tools. And then these key points here say Google will start allowing a subset of customers to pay for cloud services with digital currencies early next year. In addition, Google said it would explore using Coinbase Prime, a service for storing and trading cryptocurrencies. Coinbase will move some of its applications to Google's cloud from Amazon Web Services. So this is, to me, this is kind of a fail by Google, to be honest. They are getting involved in crypto at the end of 2022 and they're not even doing it themselves. How do they not have their own tech department with hundreds of engineers cracking away on crypto? Like, it's just bizarre to me that they are outsourcing it to Coinbase, especially this last service, this last point here about Coinbase will move some of its applications to Google's cloud. So it sounds like they realized, well, crypto is huge because Coinbase is actually a pretty big company. So instead, we're going to try and win them over by a client as a client. And to do that, we've said to them, oh, we'll use crypto. We'll get into, it's not even like they're interested in crypto for crypto's sake. They're interested in using it to try and get some business out of Coinbase. It just seems like such a tremendous oversight by these so-called tech giants. What do you think of this this occurrence?
Honestly, it doesn't, like, it's not so promising. Again, like as you said, having Coinbase accept it, and it's not really Google that's accepting it. Like, Google could easily accept crypto if they really wanted to, but again, there's this idea of, they want to be happy with like the banks, and they don't want to disrupt the currencies because maybe the regulation will come hard on Google before accepting it. Again, it's a bit of a fine line, but I think like this is I think the announcement was done during the BTC Amsterdam conference thing that they had going. That was like the big announcement apparently, but I don't think it's that important, because like the momentum of back in the day when Steam was accepting Bitcoin, and then Wikipedia, and then like all of these different ones, having them accept it was so much better for Bitcoin than what's happening now. Now it's just kind of like trying to get some news, free advertising. But again, I don't think it's that big of a deal. It's still gonna backfire on them. Again, Coinbase is a pretty big company, so I think just trying to get users to more Coinbase users to like opt in for Google services. Maybe that's the way they're doing it, or maybe vice versa.
Yeah, it's such a strange thing because I mean, I guess people think of Google or Facebook or Amazon as these big innovative tech players, but maybe that was true 10 years ago. Maybe that's how they got big, but it's not how they stay big. And you can really see that in the fact that those companies have not been crushing it on the crypto. Where have they been for the last 10 years? Where in 2015? I know for a fact there was obviously talks at Google. I think even Mike Hearn went and did a few blah, blah, blah. Like people were aware of crypto. It's not like they had never heard of it. They were interested. Maybe they weren't that interested, but they definitely were aware of it. And then why wasn't there some little subset of Google that was just spun up as like, this is our little crypto? Because they have all this other stuff, right? They have AI and they have, drone package delivery and all kind of cutting edge stuff. They have their little incubation teams to work on this stuff. Why wasn't there one for crypto? It just seems like it got stamped out. Maybe they are too close to the government, and the government was like, I don't know about that. Maybe the legal team said, look, let's play it safe. Maybe maybe the culture, maybe even the company culture was there was a few too many people salty about it. Oh, I don't like this scam or something. And despite being so-called innovative, that wasn't really what happened, right? It's kind of bizarre to think about, but I think people have a bit of an outdated idea if they think that Google or Amazon are on the cutting edge of anything these days, right?
Certainly, yeah, it's true. I really don't think I don't think their focus was on that. I think their focus was on bigger things, like Google, like really focused for a while on Android, on smartphone development. That's a much bigger market than crypto in general. So again, kudos to them. They've been developing, making amazing tech, amazing stuff like that. But again, like I feel they might be too close to the government, that they're not really allowed to experiment freely like us and think freely, to discover your own coins, your own crypto.
That's right.
I wonder if Alphabet, like Google's parent company, has a 10-year plan with crypto, because Alphabet seems like a very behind closed doors, we're just gonna come up with a business plan and then do it. Especially if you take a look at YouTube, right? I don't think YouTube has done anything positive for YouTube in 5 years now. They just keep doing more things that make people dislike them.
They made that clips, which is just shittily copying TikTok or whatever, right?
Yeah. But if Alphabet does decide okay, this might be garbage now, but it might be good in that 5 to 10 years, depending on how much foresight they have, I guess.
Well, it just seems to me like there's so many avenues that they could have been involved. Google could be running some Bitcoin mining farms if they were onto it. They could have integrated it with their Google Pay stuff and the payment stuff. They could have released their own Google wallet that let you, basically everything that Coinbase, they could have Google crypto custody, everything that Coinbase has done. They could have hardware wallets, right? There's so many different things that they could have been a slam dunk to get involved in, and they didn't.
Google would be good for hardware wallets too, because the whole reason Graphene OS uses the Pixel phones is because of their Titan 2 chip, I think, which is a hardened down cryptographic chip. So I could definitely see Google taking that route. And it's already integrated in their phone. Yeah, Jeremy, you should consult them on this or something.
Make me the product manager. Yeah, exactly. Google, ring me up. But I only accept payment in crypto, so you're gonna have to make that happen if you're gonna want my my ideas. Well, I don't know. We'll see. But it certainly seems to me that the crypto for payments part, that is kind of getting in there. Okay, very roundabout sort of way. You can pay for maybe some subsection of our cloud services, sort of similar to what Tesla did, right? Where they were we're going to allow you to buy a little whistle in Dogecoin or something. And maybe it wasn't a smash hit. It was a bit more of a PR grab, but at least it got everyone kind of the idea of, okay, transacting in crypto, commerce is happening, that kind of thing. Is sort of happening. And I agree with what you're saying too about if they announce that at these conferences. It seems more and more like these Bitcoin BTC conferences, they need to have things to announce to get get hype, but there isn't much to announce. It's like these lame, like even I think of what was called BDC 2021 with in Miami with what's his name? Nayib Bukele announcing legal tender, right? That was huge. Everyone was like, oh, holy cow, this is kicking off. And then 1 year later, they were like, we're going to announce these volcano bonds, and they just didn't end up doing it. Like, you can't keep going bigger and bigger when we're going to announce the next biggest thing. They've run out of big things because big things are not happening, basically. All right, next thing we got is BCHN is working on UTXO commitments. So this one's a bit of a technical one. This is the protocol level stuff, but for people who don't know, in the Bitcoin blockchain, you have all the transactions are all listed there, and the most key ones are the ones that have not been spent yet, right? So if I send some money to Fouad and he sends some money and he sends that money to Jet, well, he might use the money I sent him as an input to send the money to Jet, and after that, the money that I sent to him is gone, right? Because that's how it works. If I give the money and they give it away, then it's gone. So the coins that are left, which are possibly sort of spendable, which are sitting in everyone's wallets, are called the unspent transaction outputs. And for a long time, people have, well, since Bitcoin existed, really, because it's actually written in the actual white paper, people have thought, okay, this is one way that we can help to scale Bitcoin to more and more people, because those ones that are possible to be spent are the most important ones from the, if you're going to like have a subset and you're going to prune, you're going to throw out some of the old ones, or perhaps you're going to store them in like less accessible computer memory, for instance, then you just want the UTXOs. So the idea for UTXO commitments is that if you get a list of all of the available coins and you make a hash, like a tag that describes that set of UTXOs, and you put it inside the block, then you can have nodes that start on the network be able to start with, instead of starting with block 1 and what transactions were in that, and then block 2 and block 3, and slowly building up a history of the money that's available right now. Instead, they can kind of do it in reverse, and they can start with what is the money available right now, and then you can already be processing new transactions. Like, instead of your node taking 3 days to catch up to the history, in the first hour, it can have, okay, we're at the current state of affairs, and then slowly backfill in the rest of the information. So this idea of UTXO commitments has been around for a while, and actually it's already in Bitcoin Verde, and it's going to be coming in BCHN, and I'm sure the other node implementations are looking at it too, and this could be massively helpful, not only for letting people start up nodes quicker, but in the long run, if Bitcoin's going to be scaling to billions of people, well, we're going to need these kind of scaling technologies, which, of course, incidentally, Bitcoin BDC is not looking at all, and they're going to be way behind the game when or if they ever start being interested. So yeah, I think this is a huge leap forward, and I think the protocol developers have been crushing it on that front. So Fouad, what do you think about the whole protocol development? Obviously you're in a lot of the groups. How much do you pay close attention to what the node developers are up to?
I'm not that technical into I'm not a developer. I'm more on the business kind of side, more on the commerce kind of side. But I think I've been following what they're doing. It looks interesting. I know that Bitcoin Cash has different node implementations. I try to run a node now. I have one running. I think it's important to keep everyone's ideas flowing. Again, it's really a tragedy what our Bitcoin has done. I'm permanently banned. I can proudly say I got that badge a long time ago. But I think Bitcoin Cash is it's really great. I really love it. With this UTXO thing, I'm not too sure how that relates to AnyHedge, but I've tried AnyHedge, their alpha, and it's been really, really good. And I think next week, actually, the BCH Bull beta releases, and I think that would be really great. Again, there's the flip starters and stuff like that. Some of them haven't been able to get off the ground because of the price volatility and stuff like that. But again, I think this, would be a great change to be added to all the wallets and stuff like that, including, like, I actually heard about the BCH bull that you might actually be able to in the future, like, take out, like end the contract or something like that, like whenever the merchant would need it. So it's not only time locked. So I think that would be great.
Yeah,
Great
exactly.
development.
Yeah, the UTXO stuff is not directly related to this. I guess it's more related in the sense of, well, if you're going to have something like these on-chain contracts and so on and so forth, you got to be planning for it to go big, right? The worst thing you want going to have happen is if you make something super cool and everyone wants to use it and momentum starts going and everybody's piling in, and then you run out of scalability and either like your nodes start shutting down, or which is incidentally what's been happening on Bitcoin SV, or you have the fees start spiking and suddenly you're in a disaster there, right? It's just competent engineering essentially, is to plan for the future and to have a long headroom and scalability before you need it. So obviously Bitcoin Cash has unfortunately done a poor job of generating that demand, at least to date, but it seems like those solutions are starting to appear, and certainly with the BCH bull, we'll be talking about that on the show for sure, and getting in some experts to come and tell us all about it, because that AnyHedge stuff is super exciting. I think for me, it's just really important to focus on the idea that this kind of protocol level development for UTXO commitments is the kind of thing that it needs to tick away in the background, right? You can't just flick a switch and suddenly get this stuff going. For instance, if there's a part of your ecosystem like you don't have enough liquidity on exchanges, well, if everybody gets hype about that, in 2 weeks you can have an explosion of everybody trading on an exchange, right? There's no actual prerequisites that you need to have in place. But protocol development is not like that at all. If another coin decide, like Ethereum did the merge recently, right? That was a 5-year project at least. It's not like anybody else who wanted to compete with that could just, we're just going to copy that in. No, you need to already have the developers need to do it. You need to review it. You need to code it into all the node implementations. You need to get everyone bought in. And then even once you do that, like with the AnyHedge stuff, that was a result of the changes from the previous year. So the changes get in, and then it takes another year for everybody to build the actual apps and front ends, and then it probably takes another year for it to get slick from when it was first in beta phase. So having this, that's one of my favorite things about Bitcoin Cash, is that I think it has some of the strongest protocol development that nobody really understands or knows, and we're going to see the payoff for that over the next few years. So like we were talking about cash tokens as well recently, that's just the next thing, this last thing it's like the next thing's already rolling out. So I'm super excited about all of that stuff. So actually then it's a good opportunity to ask, if you're not as technical, and on this show I have a lot of sort of developers or more technical people, what do you look for? How do you assess between the different coins? How do you know to have confidence in these sort of Bitcoin Cash ideas or engineering, as opposed to something that you would read somewhere else? What are you looking for? Or do you just think, well, this seems like a smart community, so they probably have smart devs? How do you differentiate them?
In a way, okay, so first off, I think Satoshi really designed Bitcoin so well. I mean, this UTXO thing, he's been working on it even before Bitcoin. In one of the forums, he was saying that he's been working on smart contracts before Bitcoin and added smart contracts for Bitcoin back in 2008 or 2009. And I think, again, like one of the reasons that I believe in this community so much is I found like a home. I found some really smart people, some people I can relate to, some people right in those Telegram groups. And we've really been like slandered, the Bitcoin Cash, since 2020. I think, and just 2 years ago, just imagine, 2 years ago we were at number 3 on CoinMarketCap, and it's kind of crazy, But again, I've been watching all the episodes of the show. I think I mentioned that once. I kind of like, can relate to see like, okay, there's this guy working on this kind of thing, I don't know where, and another place. It's important to have people, working on what they're doing in their community. There was this discussion a few days ago about having a leader, if that's important or not. Again, with a decentralized community, I don't think we need a leader. Again, being charismatic is a pretty important trait just to have in everything, not just in the leader slave dynamic. And I think when I was watching those shows and stuff, I haven't noticed that there's that kind of leader. Like most of them are just chipping away, working on their kind of thing. And I believe in that, because once you try to like brag too much and say, I've been working on this and that and that and that, you really haven't been focusing all your efforts on one thing. There's only so much focus or effort that you can put on one particular thing to make it good. If you focus on too many things or try to talk too much, there's not so much being done. So I just know that things are being done, and we can like verify that.
Yeah, exactly. And it's certainly the case that, crypto, the whole point of being decentralized is, there is no leader. If there is a leader, then that implies either a permission or a hierarchy of some kind. So you've already, decentralization is already a bit out of the window. And what a lot of cryptocurrencies have is this sort of weird spectrum of, you might have a leader in the sense of somebody who is like, Emin Gunsura or whatever his name is in AVAX, is that who I'm thinking of? He's the CEO of the AVAX like corporation. He is literally all just flows up to him. And while technically, okay, they have other pieces of the ecosystem that are not bought into that, if they went boom, that would be kind of it. Like all the protocol developers, all the marketing connections, all the most hype stuff, or whatever, it all sort of revolves around that. And then you have something like Ethereum where, okay, Vitalik is not technically the sort of CEO or leader of anything, but he is kind of more of a figurehead in the way that he's well known and associated with that coin and is sort of hyping it up. And he has been involved in a lot of the details in the past. I'm sure he's very influential. If he says we should go in this direction, probably carries a huge amount of weight. The BCH is one of the best, obviously gets attacked for being Roger Ver being in charge of the whole coin. But once you actually look into it, less than almost any other coin does BCH have any one person who is critical to the whole project, except maybe BTC. Probably they're in a similar kind of spot, but I guess they have the core devs, and Blockstream. So yeah, it's okay. All right. Well, that's reassuring to hear then that the community is giving the impression that it is decentralized in that way. That's very good to hear, and it makes sense that would provide technical confidence in it. Okay, so tell me about Dubai. I have never even been to Dubai. I've traveled around the world a decent amount, but I've just never been through, even like on a connecting flight or anything. I've never been to Dubai. I know absolutely nothing about it, but you've been running some BCH meetups there, and obviously have a good sense of how crypto is going, like you said, with the influencers. I don't know, do you see Richard Hart out on the street or something? What's crypto like in Dubai?
It's a place that, it's China, like Dubai is a place where, it's really innovative. The leaders of Dubai, really focused on, making it a prosperous place that you can come, and opportunities. Like there's kind of like the American dream in a way that's actually happening here. Like if you hear about so many people coming to Dubai, and they're really focusing on making it a place that you will actually enjoy living in. They have this Dubai 2040 project, about making the happiest city on earth, all that kind of stuff. They're really ambitious. And, you get all kinds of people. I hosted the BCH meetup, and you get people that haven't heard of Bitcoin, people that heard of Bitcoin Cash. Some people are in the Ethereum bandwagon, but not a lot of them have done their research or their history on crypto. Like whenever they join, that's when everything else that happens they know about, but they don't see the past. So like I was speaking to someone in one of the meetups, and he was a big fan of Ethereum for all the smart contracts and stuff like that. And then I told him, like, do you know that Bitcoin actually had smart contracts, and Vitalik wanted to build Ethereum on Bitcoin, and he didn't even know that. So again, like we're so early. I think, all these things that are going to be in the history books in the future. And, in Dubai, there's not a lot of adoption, I would say. Again, there's a lot of speculation on crypto, stuff like that. I've been following a few things here and there. Binance have a really big footprint here. Recently on the Burj Khalifa, they actually put a advertisement on the huge LED screen on the tallest tower in the world. And it's still pretty early, but having this shift of mindset to a peer-to-peer electronic cash to a currency will happen, I think, because in Dubai, basically, the currency is the United Arab Emirates dirham, and it's pegged to the dollar. So whatever the US does, we got to follow. And in 2008, the crisis really hit Dubai big. Like Dubai almost went bankrupt. They actually did until they got bailed out by the capital of Abu Dhabi. And it's kind of a long story in itself. But yeah, the scene is kind of like, it's a hub. Like Dubai is around everything. If you check the map, you're close to India, you're close to Europe, kind of. You got Africa, and I've been hearing some things about maybe making a conference here in the future. I've been working on it for a while now, and I think in Dubai, you kind of get that, as I said, diversity of people. And once they learn about something, they're going to bring it back to their own country. And that's how, you get more adoption.
Yeah, absolutely. I certainly do have that impression of Dubai, even though I've never been there, but I have a couple of mates who are sort of big on it or who've lived there or moved through there or something like that. And it sounds like it might be the kind of place where there is a heavy like expat community, and I don't know about in Dubai specifically, but at various places around the world, there tends to be a sort of expat like stream or kind of layer that is going on separately to what's going on locally, right? Because the locals, they grew up there and they went to school and they have their mates and they know, their grandparents like bought the house there and whatever. And then you have people who just come in and they just internationally, and by a natural process, they end up meeting more people who are international, right? Because they've got that in common, or we're away from home, or they hang out at the similar places, or they know, okay, I need to be more sociable. So then they make some friends who then introduce them to other friends, and it just turns into this kind of expat network, which is really fun to be a part of. And Dubai seems to me like one of the places with the biggest network of that, the biggest percentage of the population that is in that kind of frame of reference versus the local amount. So I don't know if that also plays into it, like you're saying, in helping people think innovatively or be interested in spreading ideas back.
Yeah, that's right. I mean, in Dubai, you have 90% of the population is expats and only 10% is locals. So again, like Dubai has, again, you're getting people from all around the world. They want to come to Dubai. You get that, you get the nice weather, that kind of like hot summer kind of weather. You get the beaches. Like in that picture there, that's the Burj Al Arab. That's the only 7-star hotel in the world. And yeah, again,
have
like,
you been there? Have you stayed
yeah,
there?
yeah.
Oh, you have?
I have, yeah.
Okay.
Yeah.
How was it?
We stayed one night there. It was like unbelievable. Like, I don't know how to describe it. It's really nice. It's actually an island. So like there's a road that leads to that little piece of island where they built that. So
yeah,
it's kind of extravagant. You get to see all kinds of supercars all around. Literally every day you see a supercar. If it's a Lambo or a Ferrari or a Rolls Royce, the new Range Rovers are everywhere. It's just that kind of life. But again, having this kind of crypto scene that has obviously brought so much money to Dubai, and they're kind of like open about the idea, because again, there's been discussions about maybe making a currency that's, maybe, having the Saudi currency with the Dubai currency together or something like that. Because honestly, it's not sustainable to just keep the peg, because every single peg in history has failed. And I think the peg has been going on for around like 20 years now. So again, I'm not too worried. Dubai know what they're doing, and But again, having this kind of decentralized money, or kind of like something away from what governments can do, is really important. That's why I chose Bitcoin Cash.
Yeah, it sounds like with the peg, it goes back to what you were saying about stable coins. I mean, there's nothing new under the sun. Maybe crypto has its version of stable coins, but fiat currency also has its own version of stable coins where they're pegging to different currencies. And eventually those things blow up when you have people who want to have their own financial control. And then if they peg it to another currency, either the underlying currency devalues or the local government has some situation that they can't handle with maintaining the peg, or the outside investors find a way to blow it up one way or another for some profit. There's always a problem. And so tell me about your meetups then. So you've run what, one or more meetups? How many meetups?
Yeah, so it's been one meetup. I saw the website called meetup.com, and there's a group there that I think Akan started, from Satoshi's Angels. They have that. So I contacted them on Telegram to make because the last meetup was in 2019, and we made one in August of 2022. It was pretty successful. A few people showed up. It was kind of like a short notice kind of thing. Everyone is trying to make money from crypto, and they're not really focused on trying to use it. And I've seen the great work that people have, like Sunny in St. Kitts have been doing, or all around the world. Like you have Argentina. I saw the Flip Starter, Venezuela, places in the US. Having an adoption like this in Dubai, I don't think would work. Because in Dubai, it's all about the companies that, like, there's companies that own a lot of shops, and all the shops basically are in malls. So there's a mall structure where the mall itself gets a certain like percentage of your sales. So they would need to get their share. And if you accept crypto, again, you're kind of like not going along with the structure. Like there's a 5% VAT that you need to consider, stuff like that. But for a while, Dubai hasn't had any taxes. But again, they're starting to bring taxes. The 5% was introduced in 2018. And then they're thinking of bringing corporate tax. So again, but there's no income tax over here. So it kind of makes it easier on not having to like do all those kinds of tax reports at the end of the year. I don't know how that's like.
Yeah, so then maybe
I think,
go on.
Yeah, I was gonna say, just again, I think there's a top-down structure that we need to implement. Like you need to go and find the people who are really in charge of something and say, okay, how much do you want to accept crypto? Like what percentage would you be comfortable with? And I don't think that has started yet, until maybe we see some kind of disaster with the currency. We don't know.
Yeah, I was going to ask about that. It sounds more like, okay, some places the strategy is more like you get like the government sort of follows the people, where if you can get a local thing going, then the politicians will take notice, and then it sort of trickles up. And then some places, like you're saying, especially maybe in this case with the economic arrangements or the commercial establishments, that it is more sort of centrally controlled. And so what it actually probably needs is somebody like one person who is really keen and who just happens to be well connected into the right arrangements, and then maybe that one person could make a big difference. But the thing is, there's not many of those people, and they obviously also have to have their own interests or their own reasons to get involved. And then if they do, it can then spread around to everyone else. So it might be the case, that once somebody sees a really big opportunity for something, they can put it in there. But until that time, it might be kind of stagnant in terms of grassroots adoption, I guess. Yeah, that does kind of sound reasonable to me. All right, well, hopefully you have some more meetups soon, and definitely I'll always be interested to hear how it goes. I think meetups are actually a very important part of crypto, and they're sort of undervalued, because even if you just have 3 people or 5 people at a meetup, that's not simple to get a few people to show up. But the people who do show up are open-minded and willing to engage, right? Somebody might, like we were talking about doing the research before, somebody might spend 10 minutes online or even hours online and not kind of see through the fog. But if they can talk to a real person, they can get a much better sense of what's actually happening in crypto, what it's about, and in a natural group dynamic that you get from having a few different people, they naturally see a variety of perspectives as well too. Like obviously you're bringing one as the meetup organizer, but then if two other people show up, then they're going to be kind of weighing up each other's ideas as to like what coins do they like and why and how did they find that. And I think that that's a very healthy process for people to go through. So I guess any of the listeners, if you're in Dubai, look out for this next meetup for sure, right? All right, cool. We got next one up is 3D printing. So this is something else you've been involved in here. Something else I also am aware of, but know very little about 3D printing in the last few, because I can remember hearing about it. It was definitely been an idea, been around for a couple of years, but it seems like it's starting to get to that sort of early mainstream type of vibes where it's cheap enough and that people can have a 3D printer at home and you can make stuff that is not like terrible. Obviously, when it started out, I think nobody knew how to use it and so on and so forth. So people have been starting up making 3D printable Bitcoin Cash stuff. I've got an example here of a little like phone stand with the BCH logo on using 3D printable things, which is a collection of open source .stl. I assume that's like the .txt file for printable stuff like phone stands, earbud cases, poker chips, guitar plectrums, and so on and so forth. Shout out to Natoshi Sakamoto, who involved in coordinating some of this, but you've been running this. Tell me about 3D printing and Bitcoin Cash.
Yeah, so my last obsession was 3D printing before crypto. And 3D printing, there's been this idea that maybe someday every house is going to have a 3D printer. It's kind of like there was that so much hype back then. Like in 2013, I think was the peak of the hype. Like the stock prices of 3D printing companies were like through the roof. And now they're like 90% down from what they were in 2013. So it was kind of like a huge hype that didn't really materialize. Everyone was saying that 3D printers were going to become as ubiquitous as microwaves or something like that. I don't think that happened, but yeah. There was a really interesting Netflix documentary called Print the Legend. It's still there on Netflix. You can watch it about 3D printing. And it goes back to like the early companies, like for example, there was 3D Systems. They were the first people to invent 3D printing in 1981. Chuck Hull, he invented it, and basically it was called stereolithography, which actually is the .stl. That's where it comes from. And I got into 3D printing in the pandemic. So I bought a 3D printer and I basically printed these like face shields, and I'll print also like the, when you would wear a mask, your ears would hurt a lot. I'll print some of those and distribute them. It was interesting, and I've been improving my CAD skills where basically you can add the logos on pre-existing files. And, having that Bitcoin Cash, I think that's the phone stand that I printed. I didn't have any green filament to do it, but basically the volume 2 just came out today. We can print all kinds of stuff with my 3D printer. I have it over there. And there was this whole controversy about 3D printing in 2013 also was when the first person printed a gun with it. Basically, there was like a lot of controversy with the US government. And I think that's also highlighted in the documentary. It's interesting because like that's basically an industry where the government really hit hard on them. With crypto, it's kind of like been some acceptance here and there, but I think now is when we're really going to know how far the governments are going to go to protect their currencies and try to hit hard. So I don't think the bear market like has ended yet or has hit a bottom. I think it's still going to get worse. But overall, like in the future, I think it's still going to succeed.
On the topic of like the printers becoming ubiquitous and in every household, I think it'll be kind of the same thing as like here it's not like every household has a set of tools, but every dad has a set of tools, for example. And so there's like fire hazard risks with 3D printers, but I think the usefulness is going to make it so that if you do any kind of handiwork at all, or prototyping or anything like that, I think 3D printers will probably be ubiquitous. But it took when was the Ender 3 released? Like, I think it took that to come out for people to be like, oh, I can do this for less than $200, and they're getting cheaper and cheaper, right? I think it's just got to hit a certain price point for people to be like, why not? It costs less than my monthly internet bill or something like that. And on the government getting at 3D printing, I'm super interested to see what comes next, because I know there's a bit of precedent. Like, I think the original single shot 3D printed gun file is now deemed illegal, but the ghost gunner setup, like the metal mill that they were selling, like Cody's company, I'm pretty sure you can still buy, and you just throw a chunk of metal in there and all of a sudden you have an AR-15 lower that's not registered or serialized or anything like that. We were talking about IPFS on a previous episode. Some of those communities are now uploading their files to uncensorable kind of platforms. So I don't even know, even if there is regulation, I don't know how they'd enforce it. Like with VPNs and just with the technology that we have, I don't know how they'd ever track any of that.
Yeah, it's got a lot of similarities to crypto. Again, like if it's your keys, no one can steal them.
Yeah.
Just the other day, I was looking at keys.lol, and that's has every single private key of every single address, but it's just so long. It's kind of impossible to really wrap your mind around it. It's just so much. With 3D printing also, you basically, it's a really big community. So there's this website called Thingiverse where you can upload your files, and basically what's really cool about it is that you can remix a file. So for example, someone's already done, let's say a stand for your iPhone, and then you want to add, for example, an Apple Watch component to it. And you can do that. And basically, the community has been pretty active since 2010. Like you said, basically, 3D printers are getting cheaper and cheaper. So it used to cost hundreds of thousands of dollars for a 3D printer. Now you can buy one for $200. And basically, if you buy a 3D printer, and experiment, it's actually really profitable. You can make things for super, super cheap. And even what people have been doing is, if you broke, let's say, I don't know, if your fridge stopped working and you need a piece to fix it, you can 3D print it, and basically it would have been cheaper. It would have paid for the price of your printer. And then basically you can sell your printer, and you just made so much money. So I was running a 3D printing setup. I had a farm, basically it's called a 3D print farm. And I had 10 printers, stacked, making things. So it was kind of fun. It's got some links to the crypto community. But again, 3D printing, you need to buy a printer, and you need to buy the filament, and it's, you got to learn how to slice the files, how to edit them, all that kind of stuff. With crypto, it's just so easy. All you need is a smartphone, and you get the Bitcoin.com wallet. And I've seen some great developments by Paytaka. Recently, they're going to release their iOS app finally, so I can try it out. All you need is a phone, for the Bitcoin Cash Register app as well. I think it's going to change the world. Having these 3D printing things as well have been really fun, but I think I switched my attention to something more important that might leave a better legacy.
Yeah, so just walk me through, I know the concept of 3D printing, and I especially understand the idea that, okay, if you have a layered file of things, then you can just print the atoms kind of at each level, right? I sort of understand that in basics. But when you're talking about the filament, so you have the obvious stuff that you put in the 3D printer, right? So I guess there would be, when I think of it, I see more examples like this example here that we've got, which is this sort of well, I don't know what it's made of, but some sort of plastic type of stuff. But Jet was saying about putting guns in there with chunks of metal. And when I think of 3D printing, I also think of Spy Kids. There's a movie and they 3D print a hamburger. And it's well, to do that, you would need all the stuff, all the chemical elements that actually go into a hamburger, right? But I assume that people are generally using more generic materials. But just walk me through, how can how complicated are the things you can make in terms of the variety of stuff you can put into it? Is it like a recipe, like a computer game? I want to make this certain thing, so I need two bricks or two blocks of metal and one of plastic and one of carbon graphene. I don't know. How does that work?
So there's three different types of 3D printing technologies. There's FDM, which is like you described. Like, let's say this is a piece that's 3D printed. Basically, it makes plastic, many times, just like lines. So like lines all the way up to make it like this. That's one way of making it, and that's the one that's most used today. There used to be another company called Stratasys. They were the ones who invented FDM printing, which is the one doing it by lines with plastic. Basically, all you need is a roll of plastic, like 1.75 millimeters. It's a roll, basically, and you feed the roll to the printer, which then heats the nozzle to like 250 degrees and just makes the thing. And basically, it used to be so expensive because the company owned patents for it. So patents basically expire after, 13 years or something like that. And now it's basically much more widespread. So that's why, you get 3D printing so cheap. There's another way you can do it with like resin. So basically a laser, there's a printer let's say this is the printer. It goes into the resin pond and the lasers make it so it's like going upwards in a way, or backwards, something like that. And another really expensive way to do it, basically it's called SLS printing, which is like the gold standard. SLS is basically you're fusing powder. So it's like a lot of powder, the laser cures the powder, and then you can make anything. Like you don't need to do any supports, or you don't even need to like design the file to be 3D printable. You can literally put anything onto it and it will make it itself. Right now, a printer like that would cost maybe like $25,000, because that's the best you can find. But again, 3D printing, it takes, there's a learning curve to it. But I think it's really changed the world, 3D printing. Once you watch that documentary, you'll be all obsessed over it. No more Bitcoin Cash podcast or anything like that. Just because it's just a really nice thing, so I enjoyed it.
So Jeremy, with what I was talking about, where they're just putting the block of metal into a machine, that's not quite the same as 3D printing. So there's two processes in the file. You have the STL file, which is essentially like the object and the vectors and just the physics and math behind the actual object.
The measurements.
Yeah.
Yeah.
But then when you slice it, it converts that into essentially machine code for movements. And that's G code. And so as far as I know, all CNC machines are like hobbyist CNC machines. 3D printers all use the same kind of set of instructions, and that's just different G code. And so with the Ghost Gunner, it's like you give it this block of metal and it has a predetermined instruction set. And so it will just make AR-15 lowers constantly. It only does that one job. But you could do the same thing like with an STL file, but then you have to deal with like layer adhesion and the pieces coming apart, and then you go into SLS, but then it's like, is the quality of the metal up to par? And even things with like FDM printing with the support, sometimes, like I know the Voron team, which is just another hobbyist kind of 3D printer, but you build it from scratch. All of its printed pieces are made or designed in a way that it doesn't require support. So they're made to be printed on a flat surface, oriented in a certain direction. And I know there's also like just some of the software upgrades that have come out have improved slicing a lot better. Some of the instruction sets have gotten like, there's just more computer science behind it now. I think people are incorporating algorithms into making the most efficient movements at the most efficient temperature, and it's definitely come a long way.
So a way to describe it, to make it a bit easier, is basically with the 3D printer, you're making a piece, you're creating something, like a physical object that can be, like you said, like the gun thing, you can like add metal components to make it better. But basically it's a piece of plastic that you can design, whatever you want with. You can make the plastic and then use the plastic. for something, a use case. Like for example, that one, that's a phone stand. And basically 3D printing is a really iterative process. So like, let's say I want to make a phone stand and I need to measure how wide my cell phone is. I do the first prototype and then I print it and I see, oh no, it's too narrow. I need to make it, differently. So it keeps on making changes to the design. To a certain point, I reached like the 20th iteration for it to actually work. So again, there's that similarity with the crypto and Bitcoin Cash about constantly improving. So 3D printing is not really good for mass production. They've been trying to say that it's good, but it's not, because injection molding is the way you make everything. Like with injection molding is basically having I don't know how to describe it. It's been a while, but basically a shape, and then you just do it like it takes 3 seconds to make one piece.
Yeah,
exactly. It's like stamping it. It takes, but with that 3-second piece, a 3D printer would take 3 hours to do. So it's pretty slow compared to, but basically the advantage of 3D printing is the iterative process of making a product better, or like research and development, until you reach the perfect product, which eventually you injection mold.
but it could also be for distribution, right? In the sense that this is what I imagine these STL files, right? Is that if Jet makes up this certain thing and he makes it up a certain way, well, then maybe once he's done the 20 iterations and he's figured out, okay, this is the perfect way to make this widget, then he just emails me that file. I don't know how big one of these files is, but I imagine it's like a couple kilobytes or something. It's got to be like just like a binary, like text file, right? So then I get that, and then I can just whack out one of those on my 3D printer. So instead of having to ship goods, well, that's where I could see that, okay, maybe it's not as good as like the injection mold method, but if enough people had 3D printers, it doesn't have to be everyone. It could just be like Jet was saying, it could be one guy on your street has one, so you can just go to that guy who's the 3D guy, and you need a whatever, so you just go to him, you just look it up on Google, okay, I need this thing, bang, you print it, and there you go, right? That seems like a more efficient way of doing it, just especially once the technology is developed a little bit further, basically.
Yeah, that's the way. And with a 3D printer, you can make a 3D printer. Isn't like this joke
yes.
on the internet? But you can actually do it. And there's a company called Prusa 3D. They have a print farm of 500 printers. So they have 500 3D printers making parts of 3D printers to sell 3D printers to people. So they have that whole open source kind of thing. They don't want to be central, like basically they're centralized, obviously, but they have an open source approach to it where they sell you, like basically if a part breaks, you can fix it. You can print your part and kind of like do it like that. And 3D printing, because it's been expensive before, not everyone could have one. There was these maker spaces where you can come in with a file and print. So like you said, that's how it works.
I wish I had just the capital to be like an investor in one of these maker spaces, or like just a tool library or something, because I'd love to do renewable energy connected to a 3D printer where people exchange tokens for a print. Like that would be 10 out of 10 for me. That is like such an ideal setup. Like anyone shoots this library a message, they're like, hey, I want this done. They figure out the time estimate. They're like, okay, here's a token for it. It's like whatever the cost of the filament is, $2 or something. And you can actually measure the filament and do those micro like additions to a transaction and be like, okay, this is the cost of the product. When it's all said and done, when you come to pick it up, redeem your token for it. That's your proof of ownership. Then you get the part and you leave. Like that sounds so smooth and amazing, and I don't even care if I'm the guy. I just want to see someone do that at some point.
That sounds sick. So what about something like food? Because like I said, I always think of Spy Kids too. They print a hamburger, and that's why I was kind of asking about before. How many different materials, like you're talking about the filament, and okay, maybe you have some basic resin or whatever, you can make a bunch of stuff out of that. But what if I want to make something like what if I want to make a phone and I want to print it with a bunch of different materials in there? How feasible is it? The technology not quite at that stage, or would I need too many weird raw materials, or what's the hold up with that?
So there's some use cases that are more important than others. Like another really important one has been dental work. Basically, they scan how your teeth look, like your jaw and stuff, and they can make special braces or I don't know, something like that. But for food, I think you can make in the same way. Like basically, you have your pizza dough, and then you can just run the G code, like Jet mentioned, like which is the code of the machine going in a circle or in a square, and basically paste the ingredients. So that can work. I've seen a few like automated pizza shops that actually exist. Yeah, it's a pretty crazy world where we're living in now, and I think it's pretty interesting. Like for food, you can do that. For phones, again, it's not that much mass adoption yet. But basically, you can do whatever you want, but again, it's not going to be feasible, or like you can't go mass production with it. You have to choose, pick what's it called, choose where you can use it. Kind of like crypto, like where you can spend your crypto. It's kind of that barrier until it's widely accepted.
Yeah. Okay. So I mean, sounds like it's still. It's getting there. It's getting there with the 3D printed pizzas. I love the sound of that. That's gonna be, because that's just gonna be. I can just see that it would, like people were talking about a microwave. I think that's why it's a common analogy, is because if you have it as a certain size and you had a certain, I don't know, building block ingredients that were all figured out and it became economical, well then there you wouldn't need to cook ever again, right? Like you can already just get ready meals. But basically then if you have a 3D printer that can churn out ready meals for different kind of food, it will probably taste better as well too than ready meals. So
I think the biggest thing that's stopping that right now is when you, in FDM printing, for example, want to switch filaments, there's like a purge block that you have to make. So because your filament runs through this track essentially before it gets to the hot end, when you cut the filament and put a new roll in, there'll be maybe it has to purge at some point. So it has to get rid of what's been used. And there are tools now. I think there's something called like the Angry Rabbit, which is made to pull out unused filament and then automatically feed new stuff in. But I don't think, I think I know the scene in Spy Kids that you're talking about. And that I think that would take like another 10 to 20 years to actually nail down in the same kind of way. But soon, I posted a link to 3D printed food. They're using it a lot for pastries and candies. And there was also a European couple that now lives in a 3D printed house. I think that was a concrete machine, but all the same.
Just today, I was driving next to Emirates Towers, and basically Dubai is like so innovative and stuff. There's a 3D printed home or a 3D printed office there. Like if you should search it, I was literally next to it today. Like basically China has really been big into 3D printing, basically 3D printing is making things in a layered fashion. Like basically there's 3D printed homes where the concrete, basically it extrudes concrete, and you can basically make a house. That's how 3D printing is. Yeah, so it works.
Crazy. And it just seems as well that, again, it's not quite there yet with what Jet was saying, but it seems to me like eventually it will get to the stage that you have your 3D printer and it can just print out whatever, and it has the base components of whatever things you need, and there'll be a recycling method to it, so that like I have here a mug, right? So I decide, okay, I don't need this mug. I put it in my 3D printer microwave type thing. It just like evaporates that into the base components and stores them in some slots, filament, whatever. And then I need something new. So I don't need anything. I can just be sitting in my empty room, and whatever I need, I just go, I need this, bam, it prints it out. And then once I'm done with it, I put it back in, it evaporates it, and I recycle those materials to build the next thing, right? That seems to me like where it would, once it got cheap enough and efficient enough and slick enough, that's the world that we're going to be in, which is pretty crazy. That's some sci-fi shit, but
yeah, I mean, the other day I just posted on Telegram about on the BCH 3D printing. There was a video I came across where you can turn plastic bottles into filament for your 3D printer.
There you go.
So basically, that's literally what it was, and you can do it. Like instead of paying $15 for a roll of filament, just grab a few bottles that you already have or are not using, and turn it into filament, because in some places you can't even like access, you can't buy through filament because shipping is too expensive, or maybe there's so much customs on this kind of stuff. And you can just do it with plastic like this. We basically make a machine. There's an open source project that you can print the machine to be able to print with whatever material of plastic that you have.
God, this is so cool. So just to break it down for me then a little bit, just to bring it back to Bitcoin Canada, the next slide, we've got some like speaker covers and some Bitcoin Cash spend and replace signs with a QR code on it to pay people or to do donations or something about that. What's in these 3D printing Bitcoin Cash scene at the moment? What are the most popular things for people to make?
Right now, it's kind of early. Like people are just discovering this kind of 3D printing BCH community. Something that's really amazing about Bitcoin Cash is that I really love are the stickers. And the closest thing to the sticker that might actually be better than the sticker is a sign. So these Bitcoin Cash spend and replace ones, or there's another one that's Bitcoin Cash accepted here. These kinds of prints are definitely gonna be circulating all around the world, so that people can, even if they don't have a 3D printer, they can ask a friend to print it for them. Or maybe there's like some places that I would actually print Bitcoin Cash stuff, because basically stickers, eventually they run out of like glue, or like basically they're like, oh, it doesn't look good anymore, you can remove it. But once you have something physical, you never want to let go of it. Like when I started 3D printing, every single print I would do, I would keep it. And basically it got to a point where all the prints I've ever made, basically it's just it's a huge mess in my room and all that kind of stuff. And the BCH 3D printing is just something that's so innovative. I don't think other communities have really focused on that. Because again, with 3D printing, you have the free flow of information. I can send you a file, and then maybe you can edit it even further because you're better at editing, for example, and you send it back to me and I can print it. So it's the same way where it's like Bitcoin Cash has that low transactions, very fast transactions as well. And this is just to like show your support for Bitcoin Cash. And I think it's kind of fun to do.
Yeah, and I think also the Bitcoin Cash community is a bit more thinking about things in terms of those physical spaces, because people are thinking through those use cases of going to a merchant, and but like with the stickers, right, is a classic example, right, of people thinking, okay, we're in physical meat spaces in retail shops and making those transactions with proof of sale, point of sale devices, that kind of stuff, right? So yeah, I think that's also why it's more in people's mind. And certainly this would be sick if we could come up with some really cool 3D printed stuff that then can be easily distributed around, and suddenly any shop or wherever, like, then you can have adoption teams that go to people and say, hey, do you want to be part of this BCH community, whatever? And it's like you comes with free merch, basically, where you get like, look, here's all the little like decorations and useful little widgets and whatever to make this a part of your business. That sounds like a pretty cool way to stand out when talking to merchants.
Yeah, and basically to make one of these pieces, basically, let's say for the Bitcoin Cash accepted here sign, okay, it would cost basically around $1, like $1 in basically material. That's all, which is like really cheap. And basically, one printer can just keep going 24/7 and pump them out, and it's just so cheap to print these days. Instead of buying, like if you would buy a sign like this, what would it cost? Someone could sell it for $50 if they want, instead of $1.
Just got to start a bit of this stuff and we're off to the race, so very, very cool. So speaking of merchants, then let's talk about, merchant of the week is actually you, Bestsellers.cash. So you created your own e-commerce site, which I know you've been working away at for a little while. Walk me through the process of this. Why did you get inspired to make a site? What are you selling? What can people buy? Is it BCH only? All of that stuff. Tell me the journey of this site.
So basically, I had to create a website for another project I was working on, separate from BCH. It was a store as well. So I was like, okay, I went through all this work to do it anyways. So I just cloned the website and then changed up all the the logos, the content, stuff like that. So I just thought about making a place where people can buy things with BCH only. So basically, I'm starting to add more things. Like for example, I added the green iPhone just to like show the green, the Bitcoin Cash kind of with BCH. You get the merchandise, like for example, the shirt or maybe the books. A lot of the books actually over there are basically like recommended by Roger Ver. So I've been watching lots of his content on YouTube, like the past interviews and ongoing ones. And it's just super interesting because I'm actually an economics major. So all this kind of like hits close to home, having medium of exchange first, then it becomes a store of value. And again, I was experimenting with all kinds of plugins. I was able to get the zero confirmations to work, and it's been working great. Again, like if you want to buy things with Bitcoin Cash, you have an option now. Again, there's burst.io where you can actually get a discount, but I really haven't tried that. I've heard some great things about it, but sometimes it wouldn't work or stuff like that. So how do I handle shipping or order fulfillment? Basically, it's just I buy something from Amazon, like from Amazon.ae, which is here in Dubai, and you get it the next day. And whenever I get it basically out, my plan is to ship it out. And the shipping is already like included in the basically there's a flat fee which I set at $50. I think it's reasonable. Again, like you don't want to order just one thing. Like if you'd like to order something, order a few things, and it would make it a bit more feasible. It's kind of like this thing with Laszlo and the pizza. Basically it's a way to exchange. Like, okay, I'm willing to accept Bitcoin Cash for my fiat because anyways I'm buying something. And I'm basically not making lots of money, honestly. It's kind of like it's very competitive pricing. Like I lose money on some things even, but overall I think it's a cool idea, and I thought that I'd put some time into it.
Yeah, it's awesome, and I would be careful of losing too much money on it, because if you are losing too much money on it, the whole project will fall apart, and then nobody will be able to buy things. But it does, obviously, for retail buying stuff, there is going to be slim margins in terms of your overhead. Is essentially the premium that people are willing to pay to buy in BCH, maybe with a better experience, or maybe with the ability to, maybe you can combine some 3D printing in here so you can get some custom stuff made as well too. That seems to me like that could be a good crossover. You use the site and I tested out. You've got a digital goods there for 1 cent. So I bought that to test it out when you launched it, and it worked brilliantly. It really just reminds me of how much better online payments is with crypto. The only reason it hasn't taken off, well, I guess 2 reasons, is one, there's just not enough pool of people that already have the wallet and stuff ready to go. If you've got it all ready to go, it's like bam, it takes 2 seconds. And the other thing is obviously the software development side of it, because especially with how things got all diverted with BTC and where all this investing money and casino speculating is going, if people were busy making slicker wallet integrations and website one-click payments and stuff, kind of like MetaMask, but for more sort of transactional stuff, not DeFi liquidity pools and whatever, if they're WooCommerce plugins and whatever, it would be amazing. And I'm sure we will see that too. It's really just a question of time as those things slowly come to the forefront of the market. So yeah, I guess people can check out your site, Bestsellers, BSTSELLERS.cash, and pick up some stuff with Bitcoin Cash if you just earned some, got it fresh, and you want to spend something, maybe, and listeners who don't spend Bitcoin Cash much, maybe they want to try it out and reassure themselves that all this medium of exchange stuff is not bullshit. It is actually all working. All right, we got stat of the week. Is this week Ethereum now has greater than 51% or 54% of OFAC compliant blocks. So I guess obviously in the immediate aftermath of the merge, the price didn't really do as well as the Ethereum hype would indicate, and I think probably the Bitcoin BTC community also had a heavily vested interest in spreading what I'm going to say is FUD, but it's not even necessarily FUD. Some of it's just facts, which is to kind of say, okay, you guys have switched away from proof of work and observing what effects that has had in the ecosystem. So part of that has been this whole powwow over OFAC censorship, that basically if the government is putting on blacklists of you can't send to certain people or you can't do whatever, then you've compromised censorship resistance. And what are we doing here with crypto in the first place? And Ethereum is somewhat more at risk of it because there was services that help people provide MEV, mine extractable value from, for instance, if I'm going to buy a certain token, if you're the miner, you can buy that token before I buy it because you're in control of what goes into the block, and then sell it after I've bought it as well. So you can kind of sandwich your transaction, you can take my transaction and put each of your own transactions on each side and then make a profit by front running you, basically, right? So there's a lot of categories of things like that you can do to make money as a miner. And so in order to, exploit all that, there's services that help with block construction, I'm fairly sure is how it works. And then they, make sure that the miners are making the most amount of money out of that. But the problem is if those services are then complying with the regulations of willing to add censorship, then that essentially adds a layer at which the censorship can get in there. And, well, seems like more than half of the nodes are now under that category. So there's certainly some more nuance to it. I was reading, I've got linked here on the slides, a really good thread on our cryptocurrency where there was a lot of back and forth with some people are saying, obviously from a more like BTC kind of point of view, like you guys are just straight up, you've already been 51% attacked and you're basically censored even though you don't realize it. And then there's more sort of Ethereum apologist kind of takes, which was more, from my point of view, kind of a bit of cope, but basically saying, oh, well, the blocks are 12 seconds long. So if you have 51%, well, then instead of waiting 12 seconds for your Tornado Cash transaction, you wait 24 seconds. Haha, what's the big deal? Kind of. But that's, to me, that kind of reasoning is a bit of cope, because if it's already 54% today, well, in the future, it might be 99%, right? Like, it's certainly not confidence inspiring. And people were also kind of coming to try and say, oh, okay, this is just FUD of proof of stake. Like, this was happening already on proof of work, which it was, but I don't think to the same degree. And certainly people trying to say, oh, this kind of thing has happened on Bitcoin. Well, it's technically true that it did. Marathon mining pool also did this kind of OFAC compliant blocks. There was so much outrage in the community that they then backtracked and they stopped doing it, which in the Ethereum community, it seems more they're like, this is fine, with the dog in the burning house. So they're kind of screwing themselves by not pushing back on it a lot. I don't know. It seems like Jet's got a take on this.
I don't have much of a take. I just went to the website to see, what, because I don't really know shit about Ethereum, if I'm being completely honest. So even the MEV, I was like confused what the hell that meant until you said miner extracted value. But I clicked off the include all blocks, and it says 85% of relayed blocks in the past day are enforcing OFAC compliance. So I don't know what the difference between a relayed block is to a normal block, but yeah, like Jason said, it is all bad juju.
It's certainly not going in the right direction. Fouad, do you have any take on this? Are you deep in the rabbit hole of what let's prove of stake relaying blocks is and stuff?
I'm not that advanced in that kind of stuff, but it just makes sense that the government, kind of like, you can tell that Ethereum is more and more centralized. Like, I think at one point, Vitalik mentioned in one of the interviews, I think he like slipped it out. He shouldn't have said it, but he told the Ethereum Foundation to sell like 20,000, or I don't know if it was 200,000 Ethereum at the peak, basically. Again, like having this kind of level of centralization, and you can tell that to get that big, they had to sell their souls, or they had to, somehow get with the government to approve a lot of things. And I think that's how it's going. Like PayPal, I think recently also, I think last week was mentioned or something. I don't know if it was mentioned, but there's this $2,500 fine for misinformation apparently that they're enforcing now. So I'm like, if you look at everything, what's happening in the world, they're trying to ban cash. Even cash is trying to be banned, so you can have all kinds of custodial bank accounts, knowing all your transaction history. So I think it's kind of bad for Ethereum there. Again, if you thought about it, they should have just stayed with proof of work and not moved to proof of stake. But that's the decision they made, and it looks pretty bad, honestly. Like having this kind. I mean, even Roger at one point he like had a Lightning Network node or something, and basically no one wanted to connect to that node. So like again, that's centralization at the core. Like there's no censorship. I mean, there is censorship there. So like just something without censorship, something that you can, even if you have to, get some, attacks sometimes on you, or like, having slander, or like trying to like make fun of Bitcoin Cash, just take it lightly. Like say, okay, but at least I'm not following this kind of rubbish thing the government is telling me to do. Because like there's this quote, I think by Reagan or something, and it says like the scariest words in the English language is "I'm from the government and I'm here to help." I think that's like the biggest
Yes.
takeaway from that. Like it just doesn't make too much sense having these blocks that are censored. And I think the point of crypto was that you can do whatever you want with your money, and that's what you should be able to do. If you worked hard for like all your life, 30 years, 40 years, like in Lebanon, you can't even take your own money back from the bank, because basically all the politicians gambled away with the money, or stole the money, or all that kind of stuff. So, and the same thing is going to happen here. If we have this kind of view where, okay, Bitcoin is only like used by 1% of the world, and they're trying to make themselves the underdogs when we're really the underdogs. Like it's a bit of misinformation, I would say. They're saying, oh, we're Bitcoin, we're okay, they have the name Bitcoin, but they're not really representing Bitcoin. Hence even here for ETH, same thing. They try to say that they're sound money, smart contracts, programmable money. It doesn't work. So I don't think it's important.
Yeah, I think it's really critical that to understand that, there was so much in this thread. There's just so much cope and sort of technical argument kind of reasoning, once you get to the point that somebody is saying, well, technically this and this and this, and you're kind of like, okay, well, maybe even you're technically right that, somebody would just put the Tornado Cash transaction in the next block. But okay, what if there's a string of blocks without that? And okay, maybe the lag from 12 seconds to 24 seconds is not a big deal, but it's like a death by 1,000 cuts. Once that starts to as well, that's okay. The goalposts just slowly shift as it just nibbles away until at the end of the day, it's like, well, it's not that bad if it's mostly or whatever. There just seems to be so much of that kind of reasoning. So yeah, while I'm certainly not an expert in all the nitty gritty of this stuff, it just certainly strikes me as I don't think the BTC community is wrong to point this out. And the Ethereum community saying, oh, haha, you guys are just being alarmist, is kind of the indicator that they've already lost. Because if it is alarmist, well, they should be the one being alarmed. But if it isn't alarmist, they should also be the ones being alarmed. But they're not. They're just kind of like, well, it'll be fine, or we've got this coming up, or they had some proposal to separate the block validate. But I don't know. There just seems to be too many areas where, their infrastructure, their community, they aren't as hardcore. That's really what it comes down to. the Ethereum community a bit more nice, a bit more easygoing and whatever. And because they don't have like the BTC maxi assholes, they just don't have a backbone to push back on this slow corruption of what they're trying to do. I think that's kind of what it comes down to me. Anyway, I don't know. That's just my take. Okay, community comment of the week comes from LovelyDayHere. This one's a bit more in the weeds of. Oh, here we go. Jet's gonna bring us in here with the Tornado Cash stuff. I don't know. Do you want to add something there or?
No, I went to go to the next slide and I accidentally clicked the link.
Okay, all right.
Although,
yeah.
if you'll entertain me real quick, this was wild to me. If we get rid of that and we go to the past,
a bit of Tokyo or something.
Hour, we got 90% of relayed blocks enforcing OFAC compliance.
There you go. I was seeing somebody was complaining in the thread or saying something like, oh, OFAC didn't require anybody to censor transactions, but the nodes are just doing it to be on the cautious side, to be in compliance. And it's just like, you guys are already finished at that point. If it's just the mere threat of maybe we're going to want you to censor some things and you're already modifying your software and stuff and making it like, it needs to be completely the other way around. It needs to be, you need to say, well, force me. And then they need to try and force you. And you need to say, fuck off. No. Like if you're already several steps lost, if you're kind of like, it's similar to the environmental stuff. That's what it seems like as well to me too. It's kind of like, well, we can make it more environmentally friendly or lower power consumption, so we should. Like, not that anybody's requiring you to, but if you're gonna bend over when you're gonna jump when the government says jump, like, then what are you even doing there? All right, so on that sort of topic, we had this stream posted to RBDC this week, live streams to explain Riot's plan to enable centralized coin theft on BSV, BCH, and Bitcoin by introducing a cryptographic backdoor. We'll start and open your questions at 2 p.m. EST. So Greg Maxwell, the famed Bitcoin core, or infamous perhaps, Bitcoin core developer and regular troll of the RBDC subreddits, came in to sort of comment about these plans by Craig Wright that we talked about last week. He made some sort of comment. I can't remember what. It's not really that relevant. And then Rick Falkveen, who I'm really glad to see, he's a long-time Bitcoin OG, and people who don't know who he is can look him up and find out what he's been up to. But absolutely brilliant guy. Anyway, he has been commenting on the subreddit, which he does every once in a while. So he does keep an eye on the community. And he just said, Greg, GTF, just get the fuck out of here. We don't want to hear your bitching and whining or trolling or whatever he was doing. And so Greg just hit back with, K, well, don't come crying to me for help when it goes poorly for you, which is just one of the least self-aware comments there could possibly be, as if anybody has any love lost for him. And LovelyDayHere came in with the crushing blow, which said, when we came to you to ask for help to prevent congestion on BTC, you told us to fork off. I don't think any of us need your help or would expect to get any if we needed it. You seem to be following a different agenda than those of us who supported Bitcoin as peer-to-peer electronic cash. Note, I still welcome your participation in this sub. Hope you enjoy the lack of censorship, which we could not enjoy in our Bitcoin for the last 6 years. And this, to me, it just summarizes everything, about it, like we were just talking about with the OFAC censorship. The Bitcoin Cash community expects that we're going to do it the hard way. We can't ask anyone for help. We're not going to get any help, not from the government or not from the BTC maxis or not from anybody. We've just got to do it the hard way and stick to our guns, stick to our principles, which is a classic case of this Greg Maxwell. I mean, he's just trolling away. It's not really adding that much, but he isn't banned. He can shit talk all he wants, and obviously we're not afforded the same opportunity when it comes to the other way around. So I mean, then he went on to say, no, it is censored and blah blah blah, but like the fact that you're there whinging about how it's censored. Like clearly it isn't, because otherwise you'd be banned. So yeah, I don't know if this is just a bit inside baseball, I guess. But yeah, I don't know. Fouad, you post a bit on our BTC, and like you said, you got banned from our Bitcoin. Do you make much use of Reddit, or do you think everybody's just switched over to Telegram now?
I think Reddit is a great. It's a place that's used a lot more than Telegram, I would say, because I think they serve two different purposes. Because like Telegram is more of a WhatsApp kind of thing, because WhatsApp basically is huge like here in this region. Like everyone uses WhatsApp. Not much people use iMessage. Like it's not really a thing, even though everyone has iPhones. But having Reddit is a place where you can just post about things in different communities, obviously. But again, like with Bitcoin, you can't say some things, and like it doesn't sound weird. I mean, everyone that like wants free speech, it means you can say anything you want, and basically with Bitcoin, like I was banned by Greg as well. I think from our Bitcoin when I mentioned something about the block size, and I'm like, it doesn't make sense. Like, okay, r/BTC is a place where everyone can, like even people from different coins come here just to discuss things about with real Bitcoiners. Like, because right now no one's really a Bitcoiner. Everyone wants to make money, and it doesn't make sense. You know, I was kind of happy actually to see Rick Falkovich, sorry if I'm saying the name wrong, but because I remember watching his YouTube videos. He had the YouTube channel called We Are All Satoshi. He hasn't posted in a while there, but basically like he really broke down the whole blockstream thing and how it's like going against the miners, and it doesn't make any sense. Like you go and talk to the people in r/Bitcoin, and they go all on about consensus and all that kind of stuff. But there was consensus on bigger blocks. It's kind of crazy how the narrative shifted. Like there was like 90% of the people who wanted the bigger blocks, and then in some miracle they actually got away with it. It's kind of nice to see that Reddit is a good place for history. Like you can actually see history of what's happened over there over time. And I think what the BTC maxis or the people who control r/Bitcoin, I don't even think you can see who the moderators are. Last time I checked on r/Bitcoin, I don't know if you can see who they are. Like you get selected in a way, and it's like some shady process and that kind of stuff. So it's good that we try to preserve anything that's really important in r/BTC for people to see, because they're deleting the history of Bitcoin.
Yeah, absolutely. And it's just, yeah, it's been going on for a long time. And it's just, I mean, our BTC certainly has its problems. I kind of wish we could be a little bit more constructive in it. On average, there can be a bit of like saltiness and whinging about the past. But on the other hand, it is just like the hardcore are in there. And if you bring up a good topic, like you will get very strong debate and stuff back and forth. So hopefully people can focus more on that, and to the extent that we can preserve some of the history, it's quite important to do so. Okay, on a more lighthearted note, we got meme of the week comes from this week from the Financial Times. On the next slide, they got their 404 page. So I'm sure people, maybe not everybody knows that it's 404, but when you go to a website, if you can't find that link, if that page doesn't exist, you get a 404 page, right? Which in a lot of websites, it will say error 404 page not found. But there's kind of a bit of an internet joke where various companies or software developers at certain companies will try and jazz that up a bit and make it a bit funny. Like sometimes they put a funny picture, or sometimes they put a joke about their company, or maybe they put a quote from Confucius, or like something like that, right? And the Financial Times 404 page have made a very detailed one which says, why wasn't this page found? We asked some leading economists. And then they have a whole list. I'm not going to read them all. There's about 20 of different reasons, according to different sort of economic theories, why or not this page has not been found. So the first one is stagflation. The cost of pages rose drastically while the page production rate slowed down. General economics says there was no market for it. Classical economics says there's no such page. not going to interfere. Keynesian economics says aggregate demand for this page did not necessarily equal the productive capacity of the website. Marxism is the failure of this page to load is a consequence of the inherent contradictions in the capitalist mode of production. Laissez-faire capitalism is we know this page is needed, but we can't force anyone to make it. What other ones we've got here? Efficient market hypothesis. If you had paid enough for the page, it would have appeared. Tragedy of the commons. Everyone wanted to view this page, but no one was willing to maintain it. Socialism. If you were to get the page you wanted, you might get a better page than someone else, which would be unfair. This way, at least everyone gets the same. Behavioral economics. The influence of psychological factors caused you to act in a manner that would not be expected of a purely rational actor. So I just enjoyed reading these, and anybody can go to Financial Times and just type in some garbage A, B, C, D, E, F, G at the end and get this page if you want to read them all, or they're on the slides. But it certainly made me laugh, and it's a good joke because of the way economics can have 100 different explanations for the same thing. I think that's very apt. So I don't know, made me laugh. Did you find this one funny, Fouad?
Yeah, kind of. I didn't see this before, and I kind of like took a quick look at it, and it just, yeah, having these economics references that are so different, and they don't know how to explain it. And because I'm an economist, I'm not an economist yet. I'm an econ major, and I see lots of people just figuring out what inflation is and that kind of stuff. And then it's kind of sad to see like everyone, the way economics is going right now, like what you're being taught in schools is the basic stuff, like for example Keynesian economics, which kind of justifies government spending and printing of money, but it's kind of, it goes against like the sound money principle of Bitcoin Cash, which is or of Bitcoin, which is like 21 million, right? Having that amount of money being stable, or something that doesn't devalue. Like for example, there's some great economists that I've been researching and I've been reading about. Like for example, there's von Mises. He wasn't necessarily an economist, but he really talked about libertarianism a lot. And there's another economist called,
That's like Hayek.
I forgot his name.
Very, very popular.
Yeah, that for sure.
Friedman,
His name was
kind of
Silvio Gesell. He's an Argentinian economist who was really into sound money, because he basically made his own currency for a small city. So the way the currency worked is you would lose a certain amount of money if you didn't spend it. So it's the opposite. It's kind of like a deflation kind of thing. And basically it worked so well that there was no more unemployment. It was a great city. Everything was going great until the government came and banned the currency. So it was one of those these economic experiments that really worked. And it just proves that Bitcoin Cash, having something that works, that can't be devalued, is so important. And I love seeing these meme of the weeks. I remember there was a meme competition. I think you should bring that back.
Yes.
I'm ready
Luke Pryor to enter again. Yeah. Yeah, we might have to make it maybe an annual thing. But yeah, shout out to Luke Pryor. He's the meme master. He's going to be involved. We're gonna bring the meme competition back. But yeah, certainly. I mean, I like you're saying, I like what I like about cryptocurrency is that I'm obviously interested in economics, but I find a lot of it's very theoretical, right? I like that cryptocurrency is applied economics, and as much as in the early years there was so much banging on about Bitcoin's going to fail, it's all going to go away, blah 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 blah, but it's like you would just straight up were wrong. Like, I don't care what your theory is, I can use Bitcoin Cash today. So that just says it all right there. If your theory is Bitcoin wasn't work, well, you're just unable to see reality because it can. So that more engineering aspect of if it works, it works. I really like that about crypto. And yeah, economics often struggles from being a bit too theoretical, I think. Okay, message to the community. You've watched enough of the show, I'm sure you know how it goes. Open slather. What is the Bitcoin Cash community? Yeah,
I think there needs to be continued collaboration, collaborations going on, with the Telegram groups, just asking questions. There was another project I forgot to mention that I was also working on, which was the BCH ATM. And I think I already shared it on the Bitcoin Cash Telegram group, which is called Betty Cash, which is an ATM machine. Basically, it's like a candy machine where like you put in your dollars and then you get sent Bitcoin Cash. And I've been trying to work on that for a while now. It's been going pretty well. And it just makes sense. Like you can literally put $1 and get that $1 in BCH. And again, I feel the community, the fear I feel most people have is that the community is really small. Like, okay, there's a community, but obviously not as big as the other coins, because all the other coins are centralized and people like to follow people. Like there's not so much room for decentralization. But I think we should just, keep doing what we're doing. I think it's a great time to improve your own skills. Like basically, the idea is not that you want to get rich off Bitcoin. It's you want to basically have it as a safe haven, as a way that you can send money to anyone without the bank knowing, or like that kind of stuff. Like even for me, like making the Bestsellers.cash website, it was just so I could learn how to make a website basically. And I was like, okay, I can try to link it to my interests. It's not like I'm trying to make money off you guys or like in a way where I didn't even make a flip starter for that. It's something that just came out naturally. And basically Sunny, actually, he has one of those adoption boxes, which has like tons and tons of stickers in them. So I'm actually gonna add them up, and basically I'm gonna put it on the website where you can buy BCH merch, like we said, and you can get the Bitcoin Cash stickers on there. And I'm always active, so like if you guys have any questions, I'm actually gonna make a Telegram group just for Bestsellers.cash. If you guys want to talk there, maybe have some interesting discussions. Just the other day, I was playing what is it called? Cash Flow. You guys know the board game Cash Flow?
No, never heard of it. Sounds like
it's kind of like
type
Monopoly.
thing.
It's kind of like Monopoly, and I use Bitcoin Cash as the money. So instead of like dealing with the tiny paper cash of the game, we use Bitcoin Cash. We made 150 transactions when the game ended, and it costed 4 cents.
Maybe
for
we need
150 transactions.
Yeah, maybe we need. It's a funny thing that I haven't. This is just an idea, but yeah, maybe the Bitcoin Cash community needs to just whip up a little online Monopoly game, and then you could play against anyone else in the community, because it would just be like, look, you could have different tiers, whale tier, like 10 BCH buy-in or something. You could have like the $1 tier, and then that would be it. Everybody would be playing Monopoly for real money.
There's an online poker game where you can do, I think, BTC, BCH, or BSV. But Jeremy, let's stream some kind of board game at BCH 22 and get everyone to use Bitcoin Cash for it. I think that'd be cool.
Yeah, hell yeah, let's do it. Yeah, BCH Monopoly. Yeah, we can do it. We can do it on stream with. I don't know. Maybe we can even make it fun. Maybe we can switch up the names of the places. We can
make it all like places in Townsville
and statue or whatever. Yeah, exactly. Like community chest. Didn't pass bank error in your favor. Blockchain rebroadcast in your favor or something.
And rather than like go to jail, it's like get banned from r/Bitcoin.
I was gonna say that.
Yeah, we could have a BCH community meme edition. All right, we'll put that one in the back. We'll do a bit of prep for that, and maybe we can have something ready to go, and then maybe we can open source it as well too, if we find a way to make some little. We can 3D print some game pieces, maybe like a little Bitcoin. How you're always like the iron or the whatever, the dog or the whatever. Maybe we can have some of those. You can be like a Reddit moderator or something. a Reddit troll. You can be the Reddit troll player. I don't know. I'm sure we can figure out something. All right, Bitcoin Cash Monopoly. We'll put that one in the backdrop. Okay, all right. So that'll do it for the show then. This is End of the show. Thank you, as always, to my patrons, Ricky and HP, legends. Thanks for your contribution. You can donate on the slide, obviously, with the address there. Thank you to everybody who does donate. It's the best. Check out bitcoincashpodcast.com for any info on Bitcoin Cash, how it all works, FAQs, blah, 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 like recommended resources, all the episodes of the show. It's all there. Thank you to everyone who listens on Podcash and streams in some sats that way. And shout outs for the show. Fouad, do you have any shout outs you want to give?
Not necessarily, but I think I'm just going to shout out the conference that's coming up soon. Unfortunately, I won't be able to make it. But I think definitely in the future ones, definitely I'll be interested in joining and seeing how it's going. Like there's lots of places, like for example, shout out to Bitcoin Jason down in Townsville. It's really interesting. Like there's actually a big community of people like Lebanese in Australia. And I know a few people over there, and I'm gonna check with them like how's it going and if they know about Bitcoin Cash yet. And it's pretty cool, like having this kind of circular economy. That's all you need, really. And it kind of goes back to the idea of sound money and not being able to be manipulated. It's the people who choose. Like for example, if there's I actually really like the idea of the vending machines. I saw there was Paytaco were working on a vending machine. I was trying also like get some vending machines from here in Dubai, because like right now the vending machines have like these huge screens. It's like the whole front facing is a screen. So there's definitely a way to implement BCH in there. It just takes a bit of work, and going to put the work in to do that.
Yeah, I think this is something that I'm really excited for, is because the BCH community suffered so hard after the fork. Everything got kind of like splintered up and whatever. But I can see that maybe over the next year, particularly with this conference, will be a classic example, is that the network effect is going to start reforming. For instance, maybe there's a way that St. Kitts and Townsville, like some sort of connection might come out of the conference, where then the network effect is going to start rebuilding, and all these different cool little projects like we're talking about with the 3D printing and the ATMs and the different wallet software and the different physical locations we've got it going, and the meetup, those things are slowly going to start to mesh together, which there hasn't been as much of because the community has been too small. People have been leaving because the price has been down or this and that, but I can see it starting to coalesce together, and once the momentum gets rolling, it will be absolutely rocking. Jet, do you have a shout out?
I guess I do, but it's like 3-4 years late, and like probably should have done this as like never. Yeah. So maybe I mentioned this on the podcast before too. My shout out is to Charles LeBlanc, which is like a local Fredericton man who interviewed me in 2019 in front of the New Brunswick legislator. I'm pretty sure, Jeremy, that's how you stumbled upon me. I was going back through my YouTube channel and found your comment on that video. Yeah. I rewatched that video back. Man, every word said there, I was just like, I'm on the right track. And Charles has been just as like a complete outsider, especially because he is a boomer, legitimately. Asking the questions that he asked was fantastic. And yeah, a shout out to him.
Yeah, no, I did enjoy that. I can't remember what comment I left, but I'm sure it was like, I love this because it was just as simple as having you on the street. That's it, making it happen, person to person, peer to peer, you know?
Yeah, the comment was like, liked and subscribed, spreading the good message of Satoshi, something like that.
There you go. Yeah, that was it. And my shout out for the week goes to all the listeners, especially the audio listeners. And sometimes I shout out the listeners, but this week is a really special one because we released the previous episode last night. Took a bit extra to got that edited. We got it edited, released it out, and I checked the stats today, and we got Jet is Satoshi, Bitcoin Jason. You got to calm down a bit there, mate. But anyway, I checked the stats, so it was like 92 people have downloaded the show today, and that's there was like 30 something last night as well too. So that's well over 100 people in the first 24 hours of releasing. Like there's probably still 6 or 8 hours to go before it is even 24 hours. Like that's over 100 people, maybe more than 150 people listening to the audio download just straight away from the in the first 24 hours, like obviously people can listen to podcasts anytime, but if they're listening to it straight away, that means they're paying attention. They see a new episode, they're excited, and they immediately want to listen to it. So I just want to thank everyone, because 150 people, that's a lot of people. If I imagine that as a physical crowd of people, that's a lot of people listening to what we're talking about, and it certainly seems to have jumped up in the last few weeks. Maybe because we've, I don't know, had less episodes recently, so people are really desperate for it. But just thank you very much to all the audio listeners, and the community is certainly strong and growing, and I can see that in the stats. So yeah, absolutely. Thank you. If you're listening, thank you. All right, cheers. That'll do it for this week, and until next time.
The greatest story the world has ever known. The rise and rise of Bitcoin. 2022.
A single chance for the world, a single moment in time. Bankers captures all, our cryptocurrency flies. Gets to decide, Phoenix fly from the flame. Bitcoin BCH, forever changing the game.
An underdog story everyone trying to deny. Bitcoin revolution, crypto trade on the rise. Then they stole our brand name and tried to push us aside, cause they said it was over, that we'd never survive. Maybe there was a world that was the end of the ride, but this kind of hero's journey is refusing to die. So we picked up the shovels and headed back to the mine. Started over from scratch, finding fresh dynamite. Flipping over the board, drew up fresh battle lines. Set the difficulty right and forked a couple more times. Budgets got flashed with prices on the decline.